Why do you have to finish this animation project? You are putting so much pressure on yourself. And success does not equal how many perfect projects you finish. It's just the fastest way to burnout. And once burnout hits, it's very hard to feel excited to animate anything at all. Is this my personal opinion? Yes, but it comes from experience. I used to hold myself to self-imposed deadlines, make sure my artwork was at the highest standard possible, and I locked myself into projects that I had lost interest in days ago. But everything changed when I started approaching animation differently. Not as something I had to finish, but as something that I could explore. So if you're feeling stuck, overwhelmed, or ready to give up, let me show you the approach that helped me fall back in love with animation, even with just 15 minutes a day. Hi, I'm Sarmalka. I'm a motion designer who squeezes in traditional animation after the kids are down. And for a long time, I treated the 30-minute window I had like it was 2 hours. And that pressure didn't make me better, it made me want to quit. Just an extreme example of what I'm talking about. I used to try to grow on Instagram. For some reason, got it into my head. I need to post 3 times a week. Not only that, I needed to post art 3 times a week. And not only that, but I needed to post 3 finished pieces of art a week. It did not work. It was a lie I was telling myself. Let's call it the productivity trap. I thought that because I was able to produce content and produce art at such a rapid rate that it would be worth it and it would look good. I was also trying to set up an email list, which, by the way, if you are interested in animation and you are trying to figure out ways to animate in a way that fits your busy lifestyle, so please join my email list down below. But back to the story. While I was trying to do all of this content, all of this art animations for Instagram, it was not working because I was telling myself so many lies. The lies that I was telling myself was that since I finished this art piece, it has to be good. Another one was, oh, I spent so much time on this piece of artwork. I put so much meaning behind it. It's good, right? And the final lie that I was telling myself when I came close to the end of a piece is, you're not losing interest. This is still a good idea. Just finish this one up and then go to the next one in your series, and then you'll have renewed energy. You'll be good. Obviously, it was not. And it was not a good idea, but things did change. It started to change when I let go of that pressure. I stopped trying to create masterpieces and finished artwork because right now life is way too busy to try to do 10-hour long projects in such a short amount of time. But there is enough time to go back to basics, to start learning new things. And instead of asking what this project is going to look like at the end, I started asking, what can this project teach me while I do it? For example, I went back to bouncing balls. It is the simplest and most basic animation exercise that I could think of, and I did just about 50 of them. And every single time that I went back to the bouncing ball, I would go ahead and just change one little thing, try to see what it would look like if I was able to give it more of a spring to it. And what would it look like if it was heavier? Is there a way that I could change the surface in which it lands on? And by going over these basics again and just having fun and exploring, it took the pressure off. Things also changed when I stopped beating myself up for wanting to move on to another project because I had lost interest. Instead, I started thinking of the projects that I didn't finish as just warm-ups. For instance, take this animation here. I thought I was going to finish it. I even have the storyboard panels on the sides of the animation. But to this day, I still have not finished it. And I may never, but it did teach me a lot about arcs and how to follow a character's arm up. And that leads me into trying to make everything perfect into just playing. That's what I was talking about with the bouncing balls, with animation that I didn't finish. And I also learned a very important thing after that last animation that I showed you. I started downsizing my projects because I couldn't do it in that 30-minute window. It was an impossibility. Have you ever tried doing a project where you're pretty much trying to create an entire scene, but you have 1 day to do it? You don't have any of the characters planned out, you don't have any of the backgrounds made, and you know that you have to hand it to the top person in charge, the director, by the end of the day, and you've got to do it all. Does that sound like a lot of pressure to you? So doing a huge project like that is not possible. But if the director said, hey, we need to have this entire scene done, can you take care of designing this character? Then that takes an entire project and turns it into a more manageable thing, into a more manageable piece. So from all of these changes that I started to make, from just changing how I approach things to what is this project teaching me, think of the unfinished projects as warm-ups for future projects, shift from trying to be perfect to just playing with the animation, and also the downsizing projects. Doing all of this helped me stop trying to build an entire garden that was supposed to bring me joy. And instead, it was about getting a houseplant that I couldn't kill and that would sustain me until I could build my garden in a later month or maybe even a year, because life with kids is a little hectic and you never know what's going to get thrown at you. And you want to know what happened after these changes? Well, you probably know the answer since I'm making this video, but it started feeling fun again. Animation stopped being a chore, a pressure, I have to do this or I'm not good enough. It started being fun again, and it started with not trying to finish projects. It started with downsizing. It started with playing instead of perfecting. And if you're stuck in that loop where you are just saying, I need to finish this, it needs to be done because this is going to be my success. This is what's going to make me feel everything. It might make you feel successful for an instant, but what's it going to look like to get you to that point? So if you're really feeling that pressure, maybe it's time to stop for an hour, open up a new project, and get back into that joy just by choosing something that you feel is beneath your skills and going back to something basic or old, just setting a timer for 15 minutes and then look at that time as your play time. And then after that, see, do you feel a change now that you've done something like that? Because you did technically finish a project. You just didn't have a start and end point with this one. This is the beauty of slowing down and not finishing everything. It gives you breathing room, it takes pressure off, makes you feel like you have more to give to your creative hobby of animation. At least it did for me. If you're curious what it looks like to build an animation habit that actually fits with your life, not the life you wish you had, join me in this next video where I go into that.